The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Malik Beasley is no longer the target of a federal gambling investigation that started before free agency.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast.
Malik Beasley has been, I don't want to say cleared, the exact wording of the tweet. I want to make sure I get the exact wording correctly. Shams tweeted out today, breaking, Malik Beasley is no longer a target of the federal gambling investigation conducted by the Eastern District of New York. His attorneys told ESPN. This potentially reopens free agency for one of the NBA's top shooters. So, with that said, there's been a lot of reactions, obviously, and a lot of people in the Pistons community are super excited because it's like, okay, Malik Beasley's going to come back now. He's going to come back to the Detroit Pistons. So, I want to start off, we're going to first talk about the financial situation, how it makes sense financially, why it doesn't make sense financially. We'll dive into that. And then later on, the next segment, we'll talk about the roster fit and whether there is still a roster fit for Malik Beasley. But first, we're going to start financially. The Pistons, before free agency started, it was rumored that they were going to hand Malik Beasley a 3-year contract worth the MLE, which was going to be around $14 million. That was something that they seemed to have agreed upon. Then obviously this news broke. The whole gambling stuff broke. And the Pistons had to pivot away. I do want to make something very clear. The Pistons did not pivot away, and those of us that said the Pistons had to pivot away, it was not because of whether Malik Beasley was innocent or guilty. The most shocking part about this to me is not the fact that he's been, he's no longer a target, he's been moved on, for whatever you want to call it. That's not the shocking part to me. The shocking part to me is how quickly this happened. Terry Rozier is still under investigation. That happened earlier this year. Like, these things usually take a long time. Which is why the Pistons pivoted, which is why you guys had people like myself saying the Pistons cannot sit around and just wait for Malik Beasley. They have to move on. They have to pivot because you don't know how long this is going to take. Now, fortunately for Malik Beasley, it looks like it wrapped up pretty quickly. So that was the most shocking part to me, is how fast it happened. But not the part of whether he was innocent or guilty. I didn't comment on that. I don't think people really should have been commenting on that because it didn't matter whether he was innocent or guilty because the Pistons were going to have to change their plans in free agency nonetheless. Like, that wasn't why they had to move on. But now let's shift into the financials. Like I said, the Pistons were going to offer him a 3-year contract. They cannot offer him that no more. They used up that money. They used up the MLE, I believe, on Karis LeVert, and then signed and traded for Duncan Robinson. They no longer have that type of cap space to give Malik Beasley that type of money. The most the Pistons can offer Malik Beasley is a $7.2 million contract. Now, they could technically make this a multi-year contract, but Malik Beasley would never accept something like that. It would most likely be a 1-year, $7.2 million contract the Pistons offer him. That is the most that they can offer him. I do want to make this clear because I've already seen a lot of people in the community asking these questions, which is why I wanted to record this quick and get it out there for you guys. The Pistons can sign and trade Malik Beasley, but I'm not sure how that would really help because it's not like they can sign Malik Beasley to more than that $7.2 million to then trade him. There's other teams, and we'll get into that in just a second, that just have more cap space than the Detroit Pistons right now that can just offer him more money. So can the Pistons sign and trade him? They could, but it doesn't make much sense for them to do so. It doesn't make much sense for other teams to do it. And it doesn't make much sense for Malik Beasley to agree to something like that. So that's where they sit right now. The Pistons are just over $21 million under the luxury tax, so that's why they have the $7.2 million available for them. That's the most they can offer him. As of right now, there are multiple other teams that have cap space that could offer Malik Beasley more money than the Detroit Pistons could offer him. You got the Brooklyn Nets, who have straight up $15 million in cap space they can offer him. You got the Charlotte Hornets, who have $14.1 million, the MLE. Chicago, same thing, has the MLE at $14.1 million. Indiana has it at $13.5. Miami has a $7.3 million MLE. OKC has an $8.5 million MLE. Sacramento has a $7.3 million MLE. Washington has a $14.1 MLE. And our friend over at Spot Track, Keith Smith, says that Golden State Warriors could get involved and have some more money to offer him, or have more money to offer him than the Detroit Pistons, but they are currently tied up in the whole Jonathan Kuminga thing, so that makes it complicated for them if they were to want to get involved with Malik Beasley. So that's where we stand right now financially. My opinion on this, before we move on to Malik Beasley's, fit on the roster, if there's even a fit for him roster-wise, if I was Malik Beasley, and I'm nowhere near trying to really get deep into any of the stuff that we've learned about over the last few months, the reports, all that stuff. I'm not trying to get deep into it. You can just stay basic surface level with this. If I was Malik Beasley, and if any of this stuff that was reported on was even remotely true, and I just played the best year of my career, I'm not taking a pay cut to go back to the Detroit Pistons. If the Charlotte Hornets want to offer me $14 million, I am going and taking that. If Chicago offers me $14 million, I am going and taking that. Washington, I am going and taking that. Indiana, I'm going and taking that. Brooklyn, I am going and taking that. I am not taking a discount when I just played the best season of my career. And again, I'm not trying to get too crazy into it. I'm trying to just stay surface level. I want/need the money. I'm not taking a discount. Like that. If it was me, that's just me being straight up. I'm not taking no discount. It's not happening. I deserve this money. He deserves this money. He deserves $14 million. He deserves that. I'm not taking a discount, especially on top of everything else. It's not happening. So if it was me, I would not be going back to the Detroit Pistons. If I'm Malik Beasley, I love what I did with the Pistons. I love the team. I love my teammates. I love the city. I loved everything about my time there. But at the end of the day, I got to think about myself and do what's best for me financially. And if I was Beasley, I would be going to Brooklyn, Charlotte, Chicago, Indiana, Washington. Like, if any of those teams show interest, and apparently there's another team that has interest, according to Clutch Points, the New York Knicks, not Clutch Points, I'm sorry. Ian Begley reported it first. Where is he? He's somewhere in New York. What is this? The New York Sports Television. He reported that the Knicks may have interest in him as well. So if I'm just Malik Beasley, could the Pistons sign him to that one-year deal? Yes, and then they would have his rights for next year and then give him a big payday next year. Could that happen? 100%. That still is on the board. Because I think it's more likely that if I'm just putting myself in Malik Beasley's shoes, I probably wouldn't do that. I would go get my money right now and more financial stability somewhere else if I have to do that. It is what it is. Let's go ahead and get into whether there even is a roster spot for Malik Beasley. And I said this in the cold open. I'm not sure there's even really a spot for Malik Beasley. Everyone heading into free agency wanted Malik Beasley back. Everyone did. I wanted him back. The fans wanted him back. The Pistons wanted him back. His teammates wanted him back. Malik Beasley wanted to come back. That was the case a month ago. A month and a half ago. That was the case then. Unfortunately, because of the uncertainty around how long this investigation was even going to take, again, removing whether he was going to be innocent or guilty, that didn't matter. With the uncertainty around how long it was going to take, the Pistons had no choice but to move on and do what was best for their team this year. And what they did was they replaced Malik Beasley with Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. They're going to be taking up a lot of those minutes. Along with this, Jaden Ivey is coming back. And remember, I kind of talked about this a little bit before free agency started and before this whole investigation got dropped. I had multiple episodes talking about how many minutes is Malik Beasley actually going to play this year? Because a lot of his minutes went, the minutes went up a tick because Jaden Ivey was just removed from the situation. Now, if you have Cade, Ivey, Asar also back wanting to play 30-plus minutes, Ron Holland improving and playing, 25-plus minutes, even then I was asking, okay, well, Malik Beasley just played the best season of his career. Is he going to lose minutes now? Is he going to be cool with that? It wasn't going to be super egregious. It wasn't like he's going to go down to 15 minutes per game. But was he going to be playing 30 minutes again? 28 minutes? I wasn't so sure. Like, how many minutes was he going to be there? Those three guys are still here. Cade, obviously, Ivy, Asar, Ron, that's 4. Like, those guys are all going to get their minutes this upcoming year. Instead, and to add on to that, now they got Karis LeVert, and they have Duncan Robinson. Already signed the contracts. Duncan was signed to fill the need of Malik Beasley because he was gone. The movement shooting, the spacer. Karis LeVert filled the role of Dennis Schroeder to be this ball handler off the bench. You take both those guys, insert them to the minutes that was remaining. Now you have basically a 9-man rotation already. You have Cade, Ivy, Asar, Tobias, Duren. Then you have Karras, you have Duncan, you have Ron, and then you have Stu. Stu is a star, but, a defensive star. But then you have Stu. That's 9 guys right there. Usually you want to stick around a 9-man rotation, but can you go to a 10-man rotation? Sure, you can. So if you put Malik Beasley as the 10th man, because they do have a roster spot available, and they do have that $7.2 million they can offer him. If they made a 10-man rotation, how are you making that work? How are you getting all 3 of those guys minutes that they are happy with? Again, these are not end-of-bench guys we're talking about. These are not guys that you paid under $5-7 million to just play 10 minutes a game. Caris LeVert is expecting to play heavy minutes. Duncan Robinson is expecting to play heavy minutes. You paid him $16 million. You paid Caris LeVert $14 million. You didn't pay them that money for them to play 10 minutes a game. And Malik Beasley for sure is not signing with the team for one, a discount, and then also with the discount to take less minutes when he can go somewhere else, get more money, and play a better role at that point. That for sure isn't happening. So if you're making Malik Beasley a priority to make sure he gets his minutes, which one of the guys that you just signed are you telling, well, sorry, we actually had something come up, we're not going to play you as much? And is that going to cause problems in the locker room? Remember, the locker room was one of the most important things about the Pistons season this past year is that everyone loved each other. Everyone loved playing with each other. It was just a fun environment. There was no controversy, no drama, no nothing. You come into the year already with 3 veterans, not young guys, 3 veterans who expected to play, now being told that they may not play as much as they wanted to on big contracts, or not big contracts, but bigger contracts. Is that going to work? I'm not so sure. And then that's not even including the fact that the reason why all of us have been operating under the fact that the Pistons will be a 9-man rotation is because Trajan has come out multiple times and said that the backup point guard position will be basically filled by Jaden Ivey. So Jaden Ivey is going to be taking up 2 spots in the 10-man, a theoretical 10-man rotation. He'll be the starting 2 guard and then the backup point guard. If you're going to a 10-man rotation, you've got to move Karras down to the point guard. You have to then insert Malik at 2, and then Duncan at 3, probably play Ron at the 4, and then Stu at the 5. How are you going to get minutes for Ivy at the backup point guard spot if you're going to 10-man rotation to plug somebody else in? That spot's no longer there. So what I'd like to see, I tweeted this out earlier as soon as it happened. If they can bring Malik Beasley back, bring him back. His joyful spirit was great for the team. Obviously, his performance was fantastic. The players love him. He loves the city. He loves the team. If they can bring him back, I still say you bring him back, and then I guess you just find a way to make it work. But removing that emotional attachment to him, removing the city attachment, the fun, the last season, holding all the heartstrings, I guess, removing all that away. If just being objective, I don't see. I'm sorry for my alarm going off. I had a meeting earlier. I had to make sure I was awake for it. You feel me? But being objective, I just don't see why. One, I don't see where he fits now at this point. Where, again, fits as in he gets his 20 plus 25 minutes a game, not 18, 15 minutes a game. He's not doing that. I struggle to see where he fits with that. I struggle to see where he fits with now the Caris LeVert, Duncan Robinson being brought in to fill some of his minutes. I struggle to see Malik Beasley taking a discount when there's other teams that could be interested that will give him more money. And then I also struggle to see why Malik Beasley would then take a discount financially while also taking a cut in minutes when he can go somewhere else that can, one, pay him more and play him more, or at the very least pay him the same as the Pistons and play him more. Like, if he comes back to the Pistons, you're basically asking him to take a cut financially and minutes-wise and role-wise. And coming off the best season of my career, I would not be willing to do that.
August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Perhaps you believe the Green Bay Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, or maybe you have some division winner dark horses you'd like to parlay. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game.
It is officially Eurobasket week. So is Germany ready to win the tournament? And what impact has Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner, and Tristan da Silva had on Germany basketball?
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast.
We are going to be chatting about German basketball. It's obviously a big deal to the Orlando Magic. Franz Wagner plays for Germany. Mo Wagner plays for Germany. Tristan da Silva plays for Germany. The Orlando Magic will be heading to Berlin in January. There's a lot of ties now between the Magic and German basketball. So I reached out to Next Magazine's Andre Vogt. He's a German reporter covering the German national team. Had previously done a podcast with Mo Wagner. He's actually traveling to Finland for the first round, for the group play of Eurobasket, which tips off Wednesday. We're going to get into Franz Wagner's big 29-point game against Spain on Saturday. We're going to get to that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, talk about a few things from that, as well as I'll go ahead and make some Eurobasket predictions. But today I want to focus in on German basketball, how much it has grown, and where it's going to go next. And yeah, the Magic are going to play a little part in that. So without further ado, let's hear from Andre here on Locked On Magic. And I am joined now by the editor of Got Next magazine, the host of the Got Next podcast in Germany, giving us perspective on the Wagner brothers, as well as getting us ready for Eurobasket. It's Andre Vogt. And I wanted to make sure I got that correct, and I probably said it better off camera than I did here. Andre, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for really, making an effort to say Vogt. I mean, a lot of people say Vogt in the States. I've basically given up for anybody to try to pronounce it correctly, but yeah, you did a great job. Thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Us dumb Americans have to, we do our best some of the times, most of the time. I wanted to bring you in here though, because obviously there is this very close tie between Orlando Magic and German basketball at this point. It's not just that, Randy Gregory's on the German basketball coaching staff this year. Brett Bielmeier was on previous staffs. It's Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner, now Tristan da Silva are all very big pieces of this team. And a lot of Magic fans have gotten their basketball Jones a little bit from watching the German national team. I think a lot of us are German national team fans now and are really excited about what they can do. Before we get into Eurobasket, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about the evolution of German basketball over this last Olympic cycle or this last Eurobasket cycle. How surprising has this run been? To see this team become a powerhouse in the world so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to start a little early. Obviously, we had Dirk for 20 years, and he was obviously the greatest player we ever had in Germany. And when he really rose into prominence at the beginning of the 2000s, it was really a dark time for German basketball, because back then, we used to have this rule in the German Bundesliga, you could only have 2 Americans or 2 foreigners playing. But then we had this Boseman ruling where people could basically play with foreigners. You didn't even have to have any Germans on the team. But the German basketball league still had the rule, only 2 foreigners. But then I think it was 2001, they kind of wanted to be proactive and said, all right, we have to adhere to these new rules, so we're just going to open the league up. And that just was terrible for German young players, because all of a sudden, we had an influx of people from Europe. Obviously, Americans came over straight from college, and they were obviously playing for very little money as well. So we had a couple of years where we had some talented players, but they could never really get over the hump, because they had to, fight for their spots on pro teams with, 30-year-olds from Yugoslavia. So that was a really, really tough time. And after a couple of years, the league realized that this would be disastrous for the national team and for basketball as a whole in Germany. And they started to have these positive quotas, they call it. They said, all right, the first year we're going to have, or the teams have to have 2 Germans on the team. And then the next year it's going to be 3 and 4, and it's got all the way up to 6. And at the same time, the clubs were obligated to start, training young players, invest in their own youth. And that has been going on for, basically, close to 2 decades now. So we had this great effect that obviously young players wanted to be like Dirk. We had a lot of kids, trying to get into basketball after the German national team led by Dirk, got the bronze at the World Championships in Indianapolis 2002, and then the silver at the Euros in 2005. And then these guys came up, and like Mo and Franz, or even Tristan, they found this other system. They found clubs, especially in Berlin or in Munich, where Tristan is from, where clubs were actually, developing young German talent. And maybe you have 80 million people in Germany, and maybe always knew if we would have the right structure, we would be a powerhouse. There's no reason a 16-year-old German kid can't play basketball as well as a French kid or a kid from Lithuania, but we just didn't have the structure. And once we had Dirk, who really held on there the last couple of years, he played like 21 years, I think, at the end. And then obviously we had Dennis, who was like the first guy, Dennis Schröder, who came in as the first guy of the wave we have now. And then, we got to a point where we're not only going to have like 1 or 2 Germans in the NBA, but 5, 6, 7, and 8. We are on par now with France and the other bigger basketball nations. And for us it was great these last 15, 20 years. And now we're at a point where we can contend for a world championship, even though that was obviously the greatest surprise in German basketball ever since we won the Euros in '93. And now we have players like Franz, like Mo, Tristan, Dennis Schröder, Isaiah Hartenstein just won the championship, obviously, Maxi Kleber. And it's just a great situation to be in, because we have this great pool of talent, we can draw from.
Yeah, and that's not even including guys that, like, I know Magic fans have fallen in love with, like Andreas Obst, Maudo Low. Like, I can't tell you how many times, especially because the Magic need shooting so desperately. I can't tell you how many times people were like, hit me up as like, why aren't the Magic going after Maudo Low? Why isn't Maudo Low on an NBA radar? So
he was actually sorry to interrupt, but he was actually on the radar. There was a couple of years where it was close to going to the NBA, but especially as a guard, it's obviously tough. He played in college in New York, and he told me, like, I had their offers, but it was never seemed like the right moment. On one hand, I think it was hurt one year, then he never really got a real commitment with a guaranteed contract. And a guy like him who could play EuroLeague, obviously that's great money and great competition, never really made that jump. But we had a couple of guys, even Johannes Vogtmann, he was actually on the radar as well. A couple of other guys were, but for some guys it just makes no sense to go over if they have not a guaranteed contract, and on the other hand they have like guaranteed money in the EuroLeague.
Yeah, and people got to realize it's still a big move to go to uproot your life without that guarantee. It's still, there's still life choices.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast.
Every year, I look forward to the Grizzlies schedule coming out because I know that at the Fish Nation on X is going to post his breakdown of the Grizzlies schedule. He does a phenomenal job taking a look at national TV and other nooks and crannies of the schedule that maybe might fall through the cracks. So again, at the Fish Nation on X, shout out to Fish. We're going to use this as a source to look at some key stretches of the Grizzlies season. For example, the fact that 8 of their first 11 games are at home. That is a massively important piece of this season for Memphis, including the first 3. So literally Wednesday, October 22nd, all the way through the 25th, the Grizzlies are in the friendly confines of FedEx Forum. That is huge. That means they have a chance to get into a routine, get some practices in. It's almost like an extended preseason in a way, the ability to have that opportunity to play those games at home. That's a good start to their campaign. 8 of those first 11 at home. Then after that, 9 of the second 11 are on the road. It's funny how that works. The Grizzlies have multiple 4-game road trips in that span. That is going to be really interesting. I hate how the NBA did this. There's always scheduling quirks when you have this many teams and this many games. It makes all the sense in the world for there to be some disconnect, but still, it just looks a little funny when you have, again, 8 of the first 11 at the friendly confines of FedEx Forum on 191 Beale, and then you're on the road basically, changing up cities. If you look at how that schedule breakdown is actually done, you're talking about the Grizzlies being in a position where they will be in a different city for almost 11 consecutive games. The only exception to that being when they play 2 games. Though that's not true. They will be on their own. I misread that one. I apologize. So they start that stretch that we were just talking about, the 9 of 11 on the road, at New York, at Boston, at Cleveland, at San Antonio. They come home for a game against the Sacramento Kings on November 20th. Then they're at Dallas, back at home against Denver. Then they are at New Orleans, at the Clippers, at Sacramento, at San Antonio. So all around that stretch of games, they will be playing 11 games in 11 cities, including Memphis, of course. But they're still traveling to and from the city of Memphis. I would argue that's probably the most challenging stretch of basketball of the season for the Memphis Grizzlies, at least when it comes to travel. There's other challenging components. There's 4 back-to-backs in March. The Grizzlies only have 14 back-to-backs this season, but 4 of them are literally in the month of March. That's going to be a challenge, right? That's certainly going to test their legs late in the campaign. Hopefully the Grizzlies pushing for a playoff spot at that point. Might be a little bit sleepy-faced, a little bit tired there. A tough back-to-back right before Christmas at Oklahoma City, and then they're heading to Utah, playing at elevation. That's going to be a really challenging. They might lose both of those games on the road. They have 2 games in Los Angeles against the Lakers right after the Christmas holiday on January 2nd and then January 4th. And it's really interesting to look at the schedule, see how Memphis's national television games play out. Only 10 on national TV as of now, most of them being streamed, right? NBC, there's 1 national game for Memphis, 3 national games for ESPN, but 3 with Peacock and 3 with Prime. And friendly reminder that the NBA is going to look very different this year. There is no TNT this time around. It is Prime and Peacock, NBC, ESPN, of course, still a major component. And, of course, the Grizzlies could get flexed into some of these games if they're better than expected. But it's also a window into how the league kind of perceives what the Grizzlies are going to be and what Memphis is going to do this coming season. So 10 national games, not the most by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, they have that international trip where they will be taking on the Orlando Magic. That's a big deal. Overseas in Berlin and in London. Both of those games will be on Prime. That's a really fascinating opportunity for Memphis to be on the global stage, a chance to play against Desmond Bane, as we've talked about. That'll be a big deal, taking on Des for the first time after the trade. But that's a big trip for the Grizzlies, and that'll, again, technically be on national television, but that's streamed via Prime. That one game that Memphis is currently slated for NBC is on a Tuesday night, and that will be against Philadelphia, the 76ers. All right, so they're taking on the Sixers at home, so the NBC crew will be there in Memphis. That'll be kind of cool to see. But I'm curious to see how this all plays out. They have 4 2-game series this coming season against the Lakers, against the Magic, obviously in the European series, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then the Portland Trail Blazers. That is a really impressive slate in terms of opportunities for Memphis to maybe pick up some wins against the Lakers and the Timberwolves in particular, teams that maybe they shouldn't pick up additional wins on. And it's also a chance, and there's not travel with the Lakers. They're staying in LA for an extended period of time right after the holidays. That might be a little bit concerning. Fish, again, at the Fish Nation on X, points out that they have the longest homestand of the season, is to basically close out the season just about. They have 6 games in a row at home from March 25th until April 3rd. Goodness gracious, that's a lot of games at home. And they're important games. San Antonio, Houston, Chicago, Phoenix is going to be important, maybe for different reasons, trying to help their own draft odds. Dallas, and then Toronto. So there are 6 games right there in the end, that closing stretch of the campaign, where Memphis is going to be able to get off their feet a little bit after a tougher March. We talked about the back-to-backs and the travel there in March. A little bit lighter in terms of finishing up at home with this schedule. So I am optimistic looking at this schedule that the Grizzlies are going to find a way to, especially early on, get off to a hot start. And I'm sure that DeMichael and I will talk more about in future episodes of this podcast just how significant that hot start is going to be for Memphis, especially considering that they are likely to be without Zach Edey for much, if not all, of those first 11 games. So having New Orleans at home, Miami at home, Indiana at home, being able to play those games against teams that maybe don't have traditionally dominant centers. Bam Adebayo is unique. Ware is unique. They don't have those, Jay Huff might be the starting center for the Indiana Pacers. You're talking about a team and that needs all the help they can get. And then after that, their first road game of the season on a Monday is against the Golden State Warriors, and playing the Warriors, Draymond Green, not a traditional center. They have a chance to kind of ease into this stretch where they may not have Zach Edey to begin the campaign. It's likely, 10, 15 games could be missed for Zach. We've talked about that. So that's an important piece of the schedule breakdown as well. But again, at the Fish Nation, a phenomenal guy, a great follow on X. I love his schedule backdrop and breakdown. I think he nailed it, right, in terms of the significant stretches. The longest road trip, a 5-game road trip, where the team will be out literally for an entire week heading into the All-Star break. So that means Memphis will play their last home game before the break on February 2nd against Minnesota, and then they will not play at home again until the Utah Jazz play against the Grizzlies at home on February 20th. So that's basically 2.5 weeks where FedEx Forum will not have Grizzlies basketball. I have a feeling there'll be some Tigers basketball being played in the gym during that time. Let me know on X. Hit me up in the comments. How are you feeling about the schedule? Shout out to the Fish Nation. Make sure you're looking at those breakdowns if you haven't already done so on X as soon as possible.